Hey, this is Rob Riggle. You're listening to Out of Left Field on the Grueling Truth Network.
Hey guys, welcome back to Out of Left Field. Graham and Chris back with you again, brought to you by the Grueling Truth Network. Be sure to go by thegruelingtruth.com. Click on the mybookie.ag banner and sign up there for your free $1,000 sign-up bonus. Full show in store for you guys today. Corey Kluber goes to the injured list. We'll tell you how that happened and just how bad it really sounds. A.J. Pollock on the injured list for an unspecified length of time. The Reds release Matt Kemp, and George Springer has made the news for something that Chris and I are going to get into, and this is going to be quite the interesting discussion. Of course, we get our first power rankings of the year this year as well coming up for the month of May. With that, we'll put the ball in play. Chris, and let's go to Cleveland where the 2019 All-Star Game will be held. And Corey Kluber, the Cy Young Award winner, has gone to the 10-day injured list. Say 10-day because you hate to put him on the 60-day not knowing just how severe it's going to be. But at minimum, a 3 to 4 week stint until he will get reevaluated for a fractured pitching arm that he sustained after a 102-mile-per-hour comebacker hit him square in that arm and fractured it.
Well, this is a huge blow to the Cleveland Indians. You never want to see a pitcher get hit with a comebacker. It's a scary situation every single time it happens. But the last couple of really bad ones that we've seen have been to guys that, are important pitchers. Corey Kluber last year during spring training, we saw Madison Bumgarner get hit in the hand and break the hand. And it's a scary sort of situation to be in, to watch the pitcher go down like that. The question that really this raises for me is, how long is Kluber going to be down? Right? Right now it's unspecified. They've got him on the 10-day DL, but it's a broken bone. How long is he going to really be out? When he comes back, is he going to come back as the Corey Kluber we've all come to know and love, or is he going to be – is he going to have the velocity, the arm strength? Because we saw that when Madison Bumgarner broke that pitching hand, he's struggled velocity since then. And that begs more questions for me, but I'd love to get your take on what you think about the injury.
Well, my concern really is at the moment so far this year, I'm not positive that it's going to massively affect the Indians right now. I mean, in 7 games, Kluber has a 2-3 record, a 5.8 ERA, the highest of his career thus far. He's off to really one of the worst starts that we've seen from him in his career. And he's been in the league for 9 years at this point, and you're looking at a guy right now who's given up 44 hits in just under 36 innings pitched. He's walked 15 already this year, struck out 38, which is just, to see a 2.53 strikeout to walk ratio, just, it's not what you've come to expect from him. He's averaging almost 4 walks per 9 innings pitched, and his whip, the highest of his career by far since he really broke into the league as a full-time starter in 2012, a whip of a 1.654. So we've had concerns on him the last couple of years, right? And he kind of, you took what we saw as a difficult Indians team, and then in 17, 18, he really is what helped make sure that they were going to be a playoff contender. We know last year it was based because the AL Central didn't exist really, except for Cleveland. But this is a guy who has been above 200 innings each of the last 5 years, from 14 all the way to 18. That highest being 235 innings in 2014, pitched 215 last year. But there has been some concern, and we've seen this.
We're also talking about a guy, though, that leads that team in WAR. I mean, as a pitcher, Kluber's wins above replacements lead that team. He's above Lindor. He's above Ramirez, Carrasco,
Well,
Brantley, all of them.
Overall, yes, but this year he's a negative .5 WAR. I mean, there is, and we know, right? I mean, baseball's a game that year to year can be different. We thought, I mean, you thought especially Verlander was done, and it was one of the few right things I've probably said that I didn't think he was, seeing as how the rest of my predictions and saying that I thought Darvish was a better signing than Arrieta has proved to be just so accurate. But
not entirely inaccurate. I mean, Arrieta hasn't exactly been knocking down barn doors, but
no, but he's actually being able to pitch.
yeah, but Darvish fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
My question for you.
Sure.
The Indians now, it seems to me, this injury puts the Indians in a strange spot, because while right now, a month into the season, Kluber's not pitching like Kluber has pitched in the past, this is still, to me, a big deal, especially as you go forward over the course, as you get into the summer and you get into, 80, 90, 100 games down the road. This puts Cleveland in a position, I think, where it might actually be time to say, you know what, our ace is down for who knows how long. Maybe we tear it apart and go into rebuild. Maybe we're sellers at the All-Star break.
Well, yeah, that I think is more likely than not. The difficult thing here, really, if you think about it, is that, I mean, in all reality here, they are fighting a massive uphill battle this year. I mean, there really is there's no way around it. I guess what kind of concerns me right now is, for the most part, a lot of those pieces have, gone away. I mean, they let a lot of things go. Right now, you brought Carrasco back. They have some arms that they're trying to hold on to. Bauer being another guy that we've talked about, but man, they are not the same team that we saw in what was it, 2016, I believe, right, against the Cubs, because that bullpen just flattened out, and it has been flattened out for quite a while. And now all of a sudden they're actually facing a team that is really giving them a run for their money. I mean, the Twins had that crazy wild card year a couple of years ago and looked really good, but this is a year where now any team that is markedly competitive is going to hold the Indians' feet to the fire, because this is a team that only made the playoffs because nobody else in that division finished over 500 last year.
Right. And for all intents and purposes, it looks like we have a competitive Twins team coming out of that AL Central, which we'll obviously get to toward the end of the show here when we discuss our power rankings. But, 71 years without a title, 2016. 72 years.
No, I mean that because they're not going to win this year.
Oh, right. Okay. Thanks. 2016 was the last time they looked championship caliber to me. I think without a couple of without a rainout and a couple of really key hits in that Game 7, the Indians win that game and win that World Series. But they just haven't seemed competitive since then. Yes, they've gone to the playoffs. Yes.
Well, if you remember that series, we remember it fondly. It was a crap series. I remember we talked to our buddy Adnan Verk about it, and we remember the series fondly because of Game 7. Aside from Game 7, it was a crappy series. It was, right, I mean, massively one way or the other, depending on the game. Lackey struggled in it.
And it seemed
Game
like
7 and everything kind of just, you're on the edge of your seat, because either way it just had all the makings of a huge historical type of game.
Well, and it seemed like the Indians sort of walked their way into that World Series, right? I mean, they kind of chewed through the American League competition, which, in my opinion, wasn't strong competition in 2016. If I remember, they had a couple of series sweeps going into that World Series. And I just think that was the last time I remember the Indians really being competitive. But if you remember, I had season tickets the following season, that 2017 season, and I remember watching the Indians come to play the Diamondbacks, and it just seemed like they couldn't hit the ball. They just couldn't compete, even against a team. Actually, I say even against a team like the Diamondbacks, but the Diamondbacks 2017 were a really good team and getting much better. But they just couldn't win. They couldn't put a game together, it seemed, that was complete, that would make them competitive. And I feel like they've really just been like that for the last couple of years. And maybe the sort of rose-colored glasses that we see that Game 7 with really sort of makes that 2016 run look better than it was too.
Yeah,
but
I mean, they got, like you said, they got hot at the right time, which is really, kind of what happened there. And they came in there as the number 2 seed, and you're right, they swept Boston 3-0. They practically swept the Blue Jays. They beat the Blue Jays 4-1, and that was excuse me, that was that's the Blue Jays coming in
from the wild card
after the bat flip. That
right.
was the bat flip series against Texas when they were in the when they were in the divisional series. And of course we go 7 games there. So yeah, they looked really good. And of course that's when the Yankees made, sorry, but they made brilliant moves. Cashman did a brilliant job of being a seller while setting himself up to get the pieces back that he wanted, which was mainly Chapman, who went to the Cubs. And of course, Andrew Miller went to the Indians, and he has not been the same since the injuries kind of took over there. So, we really saw the Yankees do a lot of the things that have them primed now as to why they are a team that we are looking at, in the top 10 of our power rankings, which we'll touch on here in just a little bit. But yeah, it is. It's rough to see, and by name, it makes you go, man, it's a big injury. But by numbers right now, the numbers don't add up to the clout the name brings you when you look at the headline.
Right. I think the worry really where Kluber is involved is the potential that Kluber has as an ace. You see that sort of get lost. I understand he's not living up to it right now. I understand
he's 33. We're looking at a Kershaw possibility here where he's 33 and Kershaw's velocity is barely hitting 90, 92 on his fastball. This is one of those things where, we're going to start seeing the decline. And a lot of times the decline comes very rapidly, and sometimes guys find ways to learn new tricks and prolong their career.
Right. But the concern for me, I think, really is that the Indians kind of did this to themselves, right? Because they had that big name in Kluber, and they assumed, hey, Corey Kluber is going to be Corey Kluber, and we're going to run with it. And they very, very famously did nothing in the offseason that was to really put anyone around him to prop him up. Well, and now you lose that guy, and you've really not done much. I mean, let's be honest. What did they do? They got Encarnacion, right? But they give up they got Enciarte, but they give up Encarnacion.
They got Carlos Santana, but they traded Encarnacion after getting Encarnacion, after signing him from Toronto, letting Santana go.
Right.
It was kind of just a big cycle to get him back.
But that's a wash, right? We discussed those two players being a wash anyway. So you lose nothing, you gain nothing. They didn't really, I don't know, they didn't really do anything in the offseason. They got ripped for it. If you remember, during Hot Stove, they got ripped for not doing anything.
And I think that the difficulty here is there wasn't a ton out there for them to do stuff with, because
there are starters still sitting at home.
Well, yeah, I mean, Keuchel is still sitting at home, but I think at this point we know that his asking price is probably way out of the realm of anybody else. But you do have guys like Carrasco and you have Bauer. They have additional starters here. The thing is, I mean, really the biggest piece you probably let go was Michael Brantley to Houston. But at some point, I just don't think that there was a ton out there for them to do. Jason Kipnis at second is probably one of those guys who's older, and they've been trying to look at a way to move him and get him out of there, or kind of turn him into a Dustin Pedroia who becomes more of a captain figure but isn't going to play all the time. But really, until that happens, you're kind of stuck with some with some aging veterans. That's why the Mariners today, I think, beat them like 10 or 11-0, and it was just a smack. Right. Moving to Los Angeles, outfielder A.J. Pollock will undergo surgery to remove metal hardware that was inserted into his growth plate back in 2016. This is, I guess, this is bittersweet news, I suppose, because it means the growth plate is healing properly and they can remove it, but it is still a surgery that is going to pull him out and will have him sidelined indefinitely. There is no timetable for the return. Similar to Corey Kluber, as Pollock is on the opening year of a 4-year, $55 million deal that he was signed with by the Dodgers away from Arizona. He is only hitting .223 this year with a .287 on base, slugging .330. Now he is not not a big bat by any means, but overall these are the worst numbers to start his career, at least, and playing in 28 games with 23 hits and 103 official at-bats.
Right. While he's not contributing at the level that I'm sure the Dodgers hoped he would, I've even seen him on some sports websites be referred to as the Dodgers' biggest signing of the offseason, not including the re-signing of Kershaw. A.J. Pollock, if you go back and you look at his days in Arizona, was oft injured, very injury prone, and a lot of it isn't stuff that's like, it's just freak stuff that happens to him. Like it's not because, he's out there overusing a joint, or he's out there, he's not in good shape or whatever. It just freak stuff happens to him. This is one of those things. The guy had a plate and screws in his growth plate, and he got an infection in his elbow, where the plate and screw are. And that's not because he's not taking care of himself or anything. It's something that happened. It's a freak thing that happened. So they took the hardware out. The problem is that A.J. Pollock represents one of the very few right-handed hitters in this left-hand heavy lineup of the Dodgers. And that's a problem for the Dodgers, because he comes out and you go almost all lefties in that lineup, and guys like Madison Bumgarner are going to eat you alive, because that's their specialty. That's what they do. They throw to left-handed hitters.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'm going to give anybody for the Giants eating anybody alive at this point, aside from maybe their own young, the way the Giants look. But I think the big thing right now is, if you look with Pollock, we expect at least to be we're looking at good defense, right? And this year he's a negative .5 WAR. I mean, the rough thing for me with this injury, the most difficult thing for me with this injury is that likely it means that Jock Peterson is going to be kind of looking, probably is going to be looking back into center this year. He's just a guy that doesn't impress me a ton. Maybe he should. I mean, he's got 10 homers already this year, but just overall, I've failed to be impressed by him. But hey, I mean, he's got an OPS of 946, so it could just be one of those things that I'm taking past performance and putting it onto him now. The Dodgers do, for the most part, have a decent battery of guys that can fill that spot. Bellinger, if he needs to go to the outfield, can. Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez. So they're not completely hurting at that. And Pollock will come back eventually. We just don't know when.
I've heard that they are talking about putting Kike, possibly Chris Taylor in center field, putting David Freese at first base. But I mean, Taylor's hitting 162. David Freese is hitting 230. Kike Hernandez, who, I mean, is probably speed-wise, defense-wise, is probably one of the better bets, is only hitting 260. And while most of that is better than AJ Pollock's production, his defense, despite a slow start, is still what he was valuable for. And I mean, if I say the name Eric Lauer, do you recognize that name?
No.
No, he's a left-handed. He's a rookie left-handed pitcher for the San Diego Padres who pitched 4 shutout innings against the Dodgers as a lefty because he was thrown against all lefties, lefty after lefty after lefty, and that's a flaw. In my opinion, the Dodgers are going to suffer there because when they have to face left-handed pitching, they're not going to have anybody that they can put in the lineup to switch it up.
The one option the Dodgers could have, and it would be an interesting move, is they could pay $3.5 million for a guy who last year hit 290 with 21 home runs and 25 doubles, had 134 total hits and 462 at-bats, and had an OPS of 818.
Okay. Ooh.
They owe Matt Kemp $3.5 million.
Oh. Well,
they were already paying that. They had 2.5 being paid by San Diego, and Cincinnati was paying the rest of it, who have now released him.
Right, and that's
the possibility of bringing him back. This is the last year of the deal that they originally signed him, or the Padres originally signed him to, and we said that really Kemp has flourished the most with the Dodgers, and if you are in need of some power and you think he could do it, there's a possibility there.
Because his numbers were good throughout the entire year last year, but let's not forget that he was hitting over 300 in the first half.
Right.
Going into the All-Star game, guy was hitting 310. And it was his first All-Star appearance since what, 2012?
Yep, 2012.
And they're already paying him. Pay the rest of the money. I think that's a good way to go. And as you mentioned, the Reds have decided to part ways with Matt Kemp, even though he's making $21 million this season. I feel like if they can get Kemp for that cheap, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see Cleveland be a team like this, who we talked about just a couple minutes ago. But I mean, if you want the bat, and I understand that you're dealing with a broken rib right now, so maybe there is some concern with how effective can he be at the plate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is one of those things that, Kemp has the ability, we know, to turn it on in Los Angeles.
Right.
He's a hothead, and that is just what it is. But he's a guy who flourishes, it seems, when he wears the blue and white. So this could work. I don't know for sure if they will need it with the amount of additional pieces that they have. But if you have somebody that you think you can option down for one more year, and you can have Kemp in there, because I mean, this is a year that the Dodgers really should be looking to go all or nothing. And this is a big year, I think, for Dave Roberts, who has been to the World Series in back-to-back years. Really got kind of, almost buzzsawed through last year, which we kind of expected. And then against Houston, really had a chance to really win that series had Yu Darvish not just been absolutely pathetic and horrific. So This is a big year for him. This is his seat is not nearly as hot as Dave Martinez, which we'll talk about here probably in the next couple of weeks, I think, to see really where the Nationals are, and we'll discuss them in just a minute with our power rankings. But there is definitely, I think, some concern there. But again, Matt Kemp could be that piece for the Dodgers if they need it, and they do already owe him some money. So if you already got to pay him some, you might as well get the most use out of him you can if you think he can be useful to your ball club.
I agree, and I think it's probably, assuming that assuming that rib's not debilitating, which having broken ribs before, and having played with mending broken ribs before, I can tell you it doesn't feel great. But assuming he can turn it on the way he has in the past been able to while playing in Southern California, it could be a good thing for him. It could be a good thing for the Dodgers too. I think you're right. I think that's probably an intelligent choice.
Wow, I will mark the date and time for you to say, hey, something I'm saying might actually be intelligent. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, all right. So let's move into this. This is be the last big story before we get into our power rankings, and this will take us into our commercial break. Astros star George Springer was fined by Major League Baseball for what many media outlets have dubbed as an anti-gay slur being hurled towards an umpire. Now, at this day and time, there are no known openly homosexual umpires in Major League Baseball. Our friend Dale Scott has retired a couple of years ago. Obviously, he was the first to publicly come out and was lauded for it by many and was respected for it by even more, players included. The other night, this was April 23rd, and then the video came out of Angel Hernandez. And again, the fact that it's Angel Hernandez and the Astros after what we talked about beginning of the year already is a really, I mean, it's just, I get it's a coincidence, but that's just kind of a really rough coincidence.
Right.
But the fact that George Springer gets caught after being called out on a called third strike, complains to Hernandez about a call, and is caught on the top steps. I believe it was after a Jose Altuve home run. Basically, he crash Davis'd Angel Hernandez. If you're a fan of Bull Durham, you will know what it is that you just can't say to an umpire.
It's also one of the 7 things you can never say on television.
I believe it's one of the amended words that George Carlin added on there. But yeah, he called him a blanking. If you watch baseball, you know. So this was my initial reaction to this. He was not ejected because obviously it wasn't heard. It was caught on camera. Fine. He was fined. Okay. That's, okay. Cameras are everywhere. You got to be careful what you do. Okay. But when it's dubbed as an anti-gay slur, that hit me really the wrong way. Really hit me the wrong way. I disagreed with that label. I think that it, in this day and age of a very maybe overly politically correct society, runs the possibility of labeling somebody as something that we don't have any proof that he is. I spoke to friends that I have that are part of the LGBT community, and I was happy, agreed that they would not take that as being a homosexual slur if the F that was included in that statement was a different F, the way that Rajon Rondo said to Bill Kennedy a couple of years ago, then absolutely.
Kevin Pillar to Jason Mott.
Right.
In 2017.
And that's one of the things that's one of the that is one of the examples that was mentioned. But in this case, I think this is a gross overstepping of the term, and really, really does a massive disservice to George Springer, and with something that I think we would all agree who've been around the game for a long time is just one of those words along with horse bleep that is just baseball term. It's a baseball. It really is. There are certain words that are just baseball words.
Well, and let's not forget, and there's a couple of things we can't forget. One, it's not that is not specific to homosexuality. Okay? It's not. The act in which he is he's referring is not exclusive to homosexuality. Two, there has to be at some point accountability for intent. Right? If he used that other F word,
right, there
is intent. But in my opinion, you got to prove to me that when George Springer calls Angel Hernandez what he calls him, or says to Angel Hernandez what he says to him, that he is intending to insinuate that Angel Hernandez is a homosexual and this is something that he does.
Right.
And I just don't feel like the intent is there. I think that along with people, friends of mine who are in the LGBTQIA community, who have said, look, I mean, this is something people in baseball say.
Right.
And
that takes us back.
Sure,
all right, we laud it.
Is that a culture that can get looked at as far as maybe needing change? Sure. But again, show me direct intent, and then we can discuss about changing culture later.
Well, we both really enjoyed the video that came out from a couple of years ago of Terry Collins and Tom Hallian back and forth, right? The big argument where he's mic'd up and it got leaked. And I mean, as much as it was kind of egg on the commissioner's office because that's not supposed to happen, most fans really, really enjoyed seeing what happens. And if you pay attention to the video or rewatch it, that's the first thing that you hear Terry Collins say when Tom Hallian gets over there. It's the first thing. It's the last thing you hear him yell at Adam Hamry before Tommy gets in there and pulls him away, and they start having their heated discussion. And nobody is slamming Terry Collins for it. Nobody is looking back. Nobody had an issue when the video came out, and it was seen, I mean, probably by more people that actually saw what George Springer said. No one would have known that was said except for the fact that it made the news and it was dubbed as an anti-gay slur. I'm willing to bet that more people have seen the ejection video and heard that word than actually saw George Springer mouth it on camera. And nobody had an issue with it. So why now all of a sudden is it an issue? And that's just really where I think that we overstepped, and that's different. In under SB Nation, there is a sub media outlet called Outsports, and Outsports is just what you would think. It is a media outlet surrounding athletes and sports figures who are openly gay. My understanding is they really are the ones who pushed this. And if that's what they feel, then I'm not going to tell them that they are wrong. I disagree that there was the intent there, that it was being said in that type of way. Commissioner Manfred said, quote, "This inappropriate behavior was addressed with Mr. Springer and the Astros, and he has been disciplined," end quote. Fine. And I hope it stops there. My biggest hope is that George Springer does not get labeled as that for the foreseeable future or the rest of his career, because I truly do not believe, I don't know the guy at all, but I do not believe that was there whatsoever.
And let's be honest, this isn't your Yuli Gurriel.
Right? Exactly.
And his absolutely flat out racist actions toward
grabbing the corners of his eyes and pulling them back to make a physical gesture about Yu Darvish.
Right. This is not that. This is like I said, this is not something. I really don't see why this is a homophobic slur when if he was talking to a straight woman, this wouldn't be a homophobic slur, right? What if he's calling Angel Hernandez a woman? I mean, obviously none of those things are okay, but to pull that word out and say that's a homophobic slur when there's a reach there, I think.
Right.
I think. So, but like you said, hopefully this is it. Hopefully it's over now. I just.
And again, I don't sit here and tell anybody what to think or what to feel,
right, or what to believe. And if that's what you want to believe, that's perfectly fine.
Right. I just think it's very difficult to run the risk of labeling somebody something so egregiously heinous, if you will, when the intent really does not seem to even remotely be there.
Right.
When we come back, the first power rankings of the year. We've teased it. We've been sick. We finally spent time to get together and really hammer this out. Took us quite a few hours to finally get it, but we did. After these words from mybookie.ag, your first out of left field power rankings for 2019. Be right back.
Hi, I'm Mike Goodpasser from the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and we're here with one simple message. If you're watching the games, it's time to start making money. The Grueling Truth is partnered with mybookie.ag, an industry-leading sportsbook website, who reminds you that where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And that's why the Grueling Truth urges you to check out mybookie.ag. In addition to the usual thousands of odds, money lines, proposition bets, and futures offered on mybookie.ag daily, they also have live in-game betting and a mobile site that makes wagering on the go easier than ever. So join now, and mybookie.ag will give you a 50% bonus on the first deposit for up to $3,000 in extra playing money. Just enter promo code TGT50. That's TGT50 to take advantage of this offer. Visit MyBookie, courtesy of the Grueling Truth Network, and enjoy winning today. That's mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid.
And we're back, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us again. And I know you've waited for it. We have talked about it. It is finally here. Our power rankings for the month of May have arrived. This went back and forth for quite a while.
For hours.
Yeah, it really was. And I'm still not totally sure we have it accurate because there are just so many variables this early in the year. And frankly, the year is not starting out the way we anticipated. It really is not. So, yes, I see the look on your face. So this is one of those things where we went through a lot of different variables, where we thought they might be in the playoffs, what their record is against teams over 500, their run differential, their expected win-loss record, the eye test in general, what we anticipated them to do based on what they're actually doing, which is why in some cases teams with better records are below teams with worse records because of what they're doing. So as we go ahead and start it out, and this is probably one of the biggest debatable topics, we put the Dodgers number 1 and the Tampa Bay Rays number 2. It's a difficult one. And before we get to what our plan to do, and we're working on the technology side of this, of actually getting the video up, but we're going to try and turn this into an actual power ranking special each month for you guys. So that is the plan. If we don't get too deep into it, we're going to try and do that separately as well. But the big thing here with the Rays have only played one team that is currently over 500, and that was the Houston Astros to open the 2019 season. They won 3 out of 4, losing the opening day ball game. But aside from that, that's really the only big team they have played. Now, a big run differential, a lot of power in their bats, obviously. And they had the best record in baseball, or 21-12. But the difficulty was you're looking at the Dodgers, who are playing in a division that currently has 3 teams over 500, including them. The Rockies are right near it, and they're 12-10 against teams over 500, 12-4 at home, and at 21-13 by just the fact of one additional game. We felt the Dodgers made the best pick for the number 1 slot. Houston Astros, we have at number 3, the AL West division leading Astros. They are 19-14, 12-9 against teams over 500, which really has impressed us with a run differential of plus 40. They are really scoring runs quite well. There has been a little bit of concern. Garrett Cole has not pitched his best early on this year, but with what this ball club has and hopefully getting some of their injured players back, we feel the Astros sit comfortably at the number 3 spot. Number 4, this is the surprising one, I think, for us this year, were the Minnesota Twins. They're leading the Central. We talked about this earlier, that the Indians are playing from behind. They have 20 wins, one of 4 teams as we went through this that had 20 wins, still one of only 4 teams with 20 wins. 9-8, so they're sitting just over 500 against teams over 500, and that's a big thing to look at, is how well are you playing against teams that are having the kind of season that that you're looking for. They're 7-3 in their last 10, a plus 28 run differential, based off of their strength of schedule, which is one of the big things. They actually should be at 18-13, and the Twins are a ball club with the 12th strongest strength of schedule. So we felt that we were comfortable putting them there at 4, and the New York Yankees round out our top 5. That was a hard one, trying to figure out where to put the Yanks, just because of all the injuries. Now they have the 26th ranked strength of schedule, which kind of concerns us, 1-6 against teams over 500. But again, a lot of power, a lot of positive things to look at. But with James Paxton now going to the injured list and the injuries keep mounting, they deserve a spot based off what they can do. But with all the things out of their control that are mounting, it makes their spot very, very fluid on our power rankings. So to start out, the Dodgers number 1, the Rays number 2, the Astros 3, the Twins 4, and the Yankees at 5. Going into our 6 through 10.
Right. Sorry. Starting off the bottom half of our top 10, we put the Cubs at number 6. They're 18-12 right now. They're half a game back of St. Louis. It was really, really hard. And we talked a long time about this St. Louis, Chicago, where they're going to land. Should Chicago be ahead of St. Louis, even though they're 2 games behind them in wins? They're only half a game behind them in total schedule. The fact is the Chicago Cubs are running at a plus 43 run differential. They are 8-2 in their last 10. They have won 6 in a row, and they're 14-11 against teams that are over 500. And it looks like they're really starting to be able to put things together. I think that plus 43 run differential, second best in the league, is really what puts them just above the St. Louis Cardinals, who we have at number 7 on our list. Again, one of 4 teams with 20 wins, half a game lead in that NL Central, a plus 30 run differential, 12-9 against teams over 500. And something that more impacts our top 5, bottom 3 than it does really projected out power rankings. But if you look at what they're doing right now, they've lost 3 in a row. They're 6-4 in their last 10. And you see them start to struggle a little bit on top there.
And if the Cubs win tonight, they sweep that series. They're playing head-to-head right now. So, I mean, this is a big thing. It's Quintana going for the Cubs. If they sweep this, I think that really can change the balance in the Central going through the month of May.
And it swaps that 1-2 spot, that half game differential goes to the Cubs instead of against them. At number 8, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, no one, I think, was surprised as we were when we looked at what the Arizona Diamondbacks are doing pretty quietly doing here in the National League, here in the National League West. But plus 30 run differential, 7-3 in their last 10. They're at 20-14. Again, one of those few teams with 20 wins.
Which is impressive after they got shellacked opening day, giving up, I think 8 home runs to the Dodgers, and we both thought that was really how they were going. That I was going to be the predictor of their season, and they've bounced back really, really impressively.
They're only a game and a half out of the West, and most impressively, I think, to you and I, especially looking at that roster the way we did when we were doing our predictions at the beginning of the year, is 16-12 against teams better than 500, which means they're going in and they're beating teams who are leading divisions. And that's what you like to see from the Arizona Diamondbacks, especially if you're going to get anyone at all to challenge the Dodgers in the West.
And the Diamondbacks have the 3rd most difficult schedule thus far, with the Dodgers sitting 4th and the Astros 2nd. So, really 3 of the so far 8 teams in our top 10 have schedules that have been the 10 toughest so far. If that continues, especially if they're able to, it's based a lot of by division strength as well. But this could be a big thing too, because if they get through a lot of those teams that they're seeing, especially if this is, because interleague play with who they're facing, and it begins to get easier for them, that's a really scary thing. And the fact that it's the Dodgers and Diamondbacks 3 and 4, that could be a big slugfest again through the AL or through the NL West.
Well, and speaking of strength of schedule, let's just move right into the team with the hardest schedule on the books right now, and that's the Milwaukee Brewers, who we have sitting at number 9. And they are another team with 20 wins, another team that's putting wins together. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They're 10-10. They're playing 500 ball against teams that are better than 500, which is what you kind of hope to see. They're a game and a half back out of first place in the Central. The only thing that I think worried us, that had us questioning whether or not this team belonged in the top 10, which I think strength of schedule is what put them there, but the question mark for this team is that -10 run differential. I think that if that was a positive number, if that run differential was a positive number, we would be looking at the Milwaukee Brewers, based on the fact that they have the hardest schedule, at a little bit higher in that top 10, rounding out that top 10.
Well, and that's one of the big things we talked about, right? Because we still have a division leader that we haven't mentioned, and that's based off of what that division leader is doing, based off of the teams they have played. And right now, with the Brewers, like you said, having that toughest schedule and still holding pat with the other 2 teams that are barely ahead of them, I think it's why we went ahead and made that call of predicting them in our top 10.
And the team that we put in at number 10 to round out our top 10 comes in again ahead of that division leader that we haven't mentioned, in the San Diego Padres, who have 1 fewer win and 2 more losses, but they're doing things that Philadelphia isn't doing. And Philadelphia, having the weakest schedule on the books, 30 of 30, in Major League Baseball, really lends itself to say, hey, the Dodgers are doing this against teams that are better than them, which is a lot of teams.
Right.
And they're 10-8 against teams.
Exactly.
They're 10-8 against teams. Yes, they have that negative run differential, but you're talking about a Philadelphia team who's underperforming for the roster that they're paying for.
Agreed.
So that's the reasonability for putting the Padres in that number 10 slot.
And that does take us into the Phillies at number 11. And like Chris said, that was really our reasoning behind it, with roughly the exact same record. The Padres, with a lower winning percentage based off of more games being played. They've played 2 more games than the Phillies have, but the Phillies 19-14. They are sub 500 away from home, 5-1 against teams over 500, which is impressive, and they're 7-3 in their last 10. So they are making the right moves. still holding a plus 22 run differential, but run differential isn't always the only thing, because if you get a really big win or a really big loss, like Chris will mention when we get to the Mariners, that will zap the differential you have. Right now, when we looked at this, the Mariners had a 0 run differential. They were even. Now they're going to have almost plus 10 because of the game that they had today. So the Phillies at 11. 12, the Atlanta Braves. And this one was a little bit of back and forth, but the Braves, yes, they're 7-9 against teams over 500, but they're a team that at 18-16, there's a lot expected out of them. And in the NL East, it has been, I think, more surprisingly competitive than we thought. Granted, I thought the Nationals would have been better than they have been, and I'm still hopeful, although it's dwindling rapidly. But the Mets have been a relatively impressive team, too. We'll get to them here in just a couple of minutes. But with the Braves being 18-16, a game and a half out, they've won 3 straight as well. So they're kind of starting to find their place again. It was easier to put them ahead of the number 13 Cleveland Indians, because the Indians and we have to factor in the Kluber injury because we don't know when he's coming back, and it does affect this team. They're 18-14, but in a division that we thought they were going to run away with the American League Central. They are 6-4 in their last 10, but a -6 run differential there as well. 9-7 against teams over 500, but when you look at the teams they have played, for the most part, it has been very, very weak teams, and they have not looked the most consistent. That is what concerned us. Speaking of inconsistent, at 14 on our list, an almost 20-win team, and that is the Seattle Mariners at 19-17. They have a plus 10 run differential because, as we said, they won the game today 10-0 over the Indians. So that's going to help go ahead and get that differential back, which is why it isn't the only thing we focus on. What we're concerned about is they're 3-7 in their last 10. They were 2-8. Obviously, they were, I believe, one of our bottom 3 teams last week. They have really just kind of hit a pretty big slide. If they can get their spikes down and regain their feet, they could easily move up in our rankings because they have some really good pop. Dan Vogelbach really has been impressive coming in at first base. He has started to find his swing and find his place in Major League Baseball. And they sit 2 games behind the Houston Astros, yet again, only 1 win behind them. So this could be a slugfest if the Mariners are able to get their feet. And to round out our top half, the New York Mets.
Sorry, just one of my concerns about the Mariners, and something we talked about last night when we were last night is how recently we were putting all of this stuff really together. But we talked about this last night. One of the things that really concerns me about the Mariners, looking at their 0 run differential yesterday and their 10 run differential today, plus 10 run differential today, shows you how
feast or famine,
how inconsistent that stat can be. But you can't be you can't maintain a lead when you're not beating teams that are better than 500, and they've only won 3 times against a team better than 500 in 17 contests. So they're 3-14 against teams better than 500. And when you have so many teams playing over 500 that they're going to be playing against, I mean, 2 other teams in their own division, that's a big deal.
Right. And one of those wins, obviously, just coming away from the Indians today. So they were sitting 2-14. Number 15 team said the New York Mets. They are 16-18, 3.5 games out of the divisional lead, 4 games out of the wild card. What's tough is they're 3-7 in their last 10. They're starting to slide, but we have seen some really interesting kind of flashes of brilliance from them. It hasn't been consistent. The power is beginning to dwindle. They have a -23 run differential, 8-13 against teams over 500. But with guys like DeGrom and Syndergaard pitching very well this year, Robinson Cano has shown that he can still hit the ball if they can find a way to get these things together and actually get on a bit of a run. It's not going to take much of a run for them to go ahead and get back into the divisional race. I mean, they still really are in the divisional race at 3.5 games out. So that was kind of the tough one there figuring out where to put them. But that's how it rounds out. So we'll round out the top half of the rankings. The Dodgers at 1, the Rays at 2, the Astros at 3, the Twins at 4, the Yankees at 5, the Chicago Cubs at 6, the Cardinals at 7, the Arizona Diamondbacks at 8, the Brewers at 9, the San Diego Padres number 10, the Phillies 11, the Atlanta Braves are 12th, the Cleveland Indians 13th, the Seattle Mariners 14, and to round out the top half, the New York Metropolitans sit at 15.
Which takes us into the best of the bottom half, where we put the Colorado Rockies. The Colorado Rockies right now are sitting at 16-19. They're running with a -8 run differential. They've been getting shellacked by Arizona over the last few games. Arizona's just been putting it on them, to be honest. And they're right now, Arizona's working toward a sweep if they can manage to win tonight against the Colorado Rockies. And they're 6 games out of first place. Definitely not where Graham saw them sitting at this time, or excuse me, at the beginning of the season when we were doing our predictions. And I think what's most telling is they're playing 500 baseball, and that 500 baseball that they've been playing over the last 10 games is better than what they've been able to put together for most of the season. They're 11-13, so under 500 against teams better than 500. And, this sort of heart of the order type, right, the top of the bottom type teams are hard to rank. The first 4 are easy. The last 4 are easy. It's the middle 22 that really had us talking the most. But moving on from the Colorado Rockies to number 17 is the Los Angeles Angels, who have shown flashes of brilliance this season, but their overall production is just lackluster. This is a problem that I said that I had with them, paying all the money that they paid to Mike Trout. They're 15 and 18 right now. They're 9-14 against teams better than 500. And they have also a -10 run differential. They're playing Houston right now, and they're getting whacked around. It's not – I think 17 is a good spot for them, despite the fact –
we'll see what happens if Ohtani might come back this week. It's possible we see him in the box. That I'm interested to see if that sparks this team and maybe moves them up a couple of rungs come our June rankings.
Despite the fact that the Angels own a worse record than the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are sitting right now at 16-15, a little bit closer than the 3 games under 500 that the Angels are. We did put the Pittsburgh Pirates below the Los Angeles Angels at number 18. The reasonability behind that is this is a team that is playing sub 500 baseball. They're 3-11 against teams better than 500, and they are running at a -26 run differential against teams who are on paper not better than them.
Right. And they've won 2 straight. They were sitting sub 500 for the last 2 or 3 weeks. You and I have been looking at this, and they managed to roll off a couple of quick ones and get themselves back above 500. But they have been, I think, massively underperforming.
I agree. And that brings us to a team that isn't just massively underperforming. They're starting to worry us a little bit. And that's number 19, the Boston Red Sox, the reigning World Series champions, who are right now 17-18 playing sub 500 ball. They're 5 games out of that division. They're 2.5 games out of behind the Yankees for the wild card slot. They're at a 0 run differential. They're playing 5-9 against teams against 500. And I think one of the most telling things for this team is they're right around 500 at home. And that is not a position that they found themselves in last year. Right. It was almost impossible to beat Boston in Boston last year. Hell, it was almost impossible to beat Boston at all last year.
Right.
And this year they're just not repeating. Now, that being said, it has sort of looked like they've started to put it together in this last week or two. right? They've won 3 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10, but that 0-run differential and their inability to beat teams better than 500 is what put them at number 19. Rounding out that bottom, or that top part of the bottom half, the top third of the bottom half, is the Toronto Blue Jays. And what do you say about the Toronto Blue Jays? This is pretty much where we expected them to be, is in 4th place in that division. They're 15-19. They're 5-9, just like the Boston Red Sox against teams over 500. They're running at a -7 run differential, which tells me that if they're not winning ball games, they're getting blown out in ball games. If they're not winning close games, they're losing big games. And 4-6 in their last 10. Again, that's a top 5, bottom 3 kind of stat, but still, I think 20 is exactly where they sit. I think that all 10 teams after the Toronto Blue Jays deserve to be behind the Toronto Blue Jays, but this is as close to the middle as I think that they could safely be put right now.
Yeah, and adding Vlad Jr., we'd love to. We're hoping to see kind of an explosion there. We'll see what he becomes. Some nice defense already from him. Got robbed of a home run already once, but
I would like to give an interesting Vlad Jr. stat.
Okay.
Vlad Jr. got his first RBI today. He drove in Justin Smoke on a little single that he sent between third base and the shortstop. Drove in Justin Smoke. In 2010, Justin Smoke earned his first Major League RBI by driving in Vlad Jr. when they played for the Texas Rangers.
You mean Vlad Sr.?
Vlad Sr. when they played for the Texas Rangers. So just a little bit of
I was like, wow, Vlad Jr. made Major League Baseball as like a 10-year-old. High five, man. What took so damn long for the Blue Jays?
But, so Vlad Jr. drives in Smoke, who earned his first RBI driving in Vlad's daddy in 2010, 9 years ago. So just one of those funny baseball things that happens.
Number 21, we have the Cincinnati Reds. What I think, at least at this point, really is I'm actually kind of blown away by is the fact, as I'm actually taking a look as we speak at what this final score was, that somehow the Reds lost to the Giants 6-5 after hitting 3 straight homers on 3 straight pitches off of Jeff Smarja. Still managed to go ahead and lose by a run. This team is 14-20. They're better than they looked last year. Granted, they're actually not too far off from where you had them predicted. I didn't have them at 500, but I will say with what they're doing compared to last year, how they started, they are where we both thought that we would see some increase. Right, they're only 6 games below 500. They have a run differential of +15. They are 8-16 against teams that are better than 500. But again, we kind of expect that. So this is one of those things that, are they underperforming? Yeah, maybe. Major League Baseball stats have their expected win-loss record at 19-15. So they actually have them expected to be higher than they have, and that's because some of these one-run games that they've lost are games that they probably should have been able to go ahead and pull a victory out of. But that's going to come because it's a young team still trying to find their way. So we put the Reds at 21. A difficult one. I know for you, you really thought this was going to be a team that could find their way back in, is the Oakland Athletics. They are number 22. They are 15-21, 6 games below 500, 6 games out of first place in the AL West. A -7 run differential, 6-9 against teams that are over 500, 5-13 on the road. They're 2-8 in their last 10. Hopefully, I believe Matt Chapman is due back in the next week or so. So that hopefully will bode well for them, getting some pop back in the lineup. But to say I'm surprised is not would not be accurate. But I would have really enjoyed seeing them repeat like they did last year, and who knows, maybe something happens again. At 23, the Texas Rangers. Now, why in the world are the Rangers, who are the last 500 team that we have that low. They're 16-16, 4-6 in their last 10, 9-8 against teams over 500. But they are a team who really just, having run off 2 straight wins has gotten them back to 500. But when we were looking at this ball club, they are a team with a negative run differential. They did not look good whatsoever. They have not looked good in several years, which is why Jeff Bannister, unfortunately, is now working again for the Pittsburgh Pirates and not working for the Rangers as their skipper. They overpaid Rougned Odor. They tried to go out and make some things happen with getting Cole Hamels and getting Luke Roy a couple of years ago, and it just hasn't happened. They're a team in desperate need of a rebuild. Adrian Beltre has retired. Just a team that we think should be better than, we're expected to be better than they have been and have just underperformed extensively. At number 24, this is the toughest one for me. The Washington Nationals, they are 5 games under 500, 5 games out of first place, 7-11 against teams that are better than 500 and a negative 11 run differential. Not much I can really say there. They're terrible, and there's really no rhyme or reason behind it, and it's why I think we're going to see a new skipper for that ball club very soon. The Detroit Tigers at 25, this is when we get into just kind of who is the best of the worst. Start looking around the Tigers. I mean, they're sitting 3rd place in the division. They're 15-16. They have no pop whatsoever. They have a negative 33 run differential. Obviously, they're not going to do well against teams that are really playing that well. But at the moment, they're 2.5 out of the wild card, so maybe they can make some kind of play. Ron Gardenhire is a good manager, obviously an experienced veteran manager, but this ball club is not an impressive team by any stretch. Chris, take us home with what is by far an insult to some dumpster fires.
Oh, man, you have no idea. These last 5 teams are the obvious choices. At number 26, we have the Chicago White Sox. Chicago White Sox are 14-18. They're 4-7 against teams over 500. They have a negative 36 run differential, and they just cannot put it together.
Which is tough because we thought there was a chance. Yonder Alonso, the John Jay signing, right? I mean,
they have all that young talent that they –
yeah. I mean, it's just something's not meshing.
Clicking. Right,
yeah.
Right. This next team hurts me, obviously. Number 27, we have the San Francisco Giants. We're 15-19, playing 500 ball right now, but they just managed to win 1. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They beat Cincinnati today. But they're 7-15 against teams better than 500, and they're running at a negative 30 run differential. One of the bright spots for San Francisco is they have one of the better bullpens in the league right now, but their starting pitching is just terrible. When Jeff Samardzija at a 2.8 ERA is your best starting pitcher, and you have Madison Bumgarner on your staff, something's going on there that needs to be addressed.
Hopefully that bullpen pitches well enough towards July that helps get them some prospects back when teams come calling who need bullpen help. That's really the only thing you can hope for. I really think if you're a Giants fan who can step back and look, and I say this because I mean honestly, we talked. You're able to step back and be objective here. That's what you're hoping for is to get something worth a hoot in return for all these guys.
And the last three teams have win percentages that look more like batting averages, and only 2 of them have win percentages that look like good batting averages. So we have the Kansas City Royals at number 28, who are running a negative 11 run differential, 7-13 against teams better than 500, and they're 12-23 on the season. They're winning at a 343 clip. That's a great batting average, but it's a horrible win percentage for a Major League Baseball team. Coming in at 29, we have the Baltimore Orioles. I don't think anybody can really argue with that. They have a negative 68 run differential as of right now. They're 12-22, winning at a 353 clip. That negative 68 run differential is just destructive. 4-13 against teams better than 500. And that brings us to number 30, rounding out the bottom of the bottom and the Miami Marlins, who are 9-24. They haven't even crested double digits yet. They're winning at a 273 clip, which I guess is where you want to see some of your middle of the road players hitting, but it's not where you want to see your team winning. And that negative 73 run differential and a 250 winning percentage against teams over 500 is really what got them there. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not what got them there. It's gutting their team is what got them there. But
I just want to say that out of 4 teams that we've mentioned, and especially the last 3 in the Royals, the Orioles, and the Marlins, and if he wasn't on the IL because of a shoulder separation, likely also the Oakland Athletics. Cody Bellinger has a higher batting average than these teams do a winning percentage.
ouch.
He's currently hitting .415.
Oh, well, he has a better batting average than half our list right now.
Yeah.
Then half our list has winning percentage.
Five teams.
So, recapping the bottom, the worst, the second half, 16 Colorado, 17 LA Angels, 18 Pittsburgh Pirates, 19 Boston Red Sox, number 20 the Toronto Blue Jays, Cincinnati Reds sitting at 21, followed by the Oakland A's at 22, the Texas Rangers at 23, number 24 the Washington Nationals, and finishing up the top 25 teams is the Detroit Tigers, and then the worst of the worst, the Chicago White Sox, the San Francisco Giants at 27, the Royals at 28, the Orioles at 29, and that quadruple A team that plays down in Miami, the Miami Marlins, sitting at number 30.
So, guys, let us know what you think. Do you agree, disagree, think we have one team too high, too low? Let us know out of left field with Chris and Graham on Facebook. Leave us a message there or tweet us at OOLeftField on Twitter. Again, we will let you guys know if we are able to work the kinks out and actually get what we hope to be a new Power Rankings once-a-month special. We're going to try and start doing that on the Out of Left Field YouTube channel, which we haven't used in quite a while. It is still there. It's mainly been hosting the Force 3 video that we made a while back. That's been still getting a bunch of reviews and appreciation. So you can always search Out of Left Field on YouTube and take a look at the Force 3 video. And if you decide that you want to get some Force 3 equipment, be sure to let them know that you saw it from our video, as Jason is a good friend of the show. For all of us here at thegruelingtruth.com and the Grueling Truth Sports Network, I'm Graham. That's Chris. So long, guys. We'll see you next week here on Out of Left Field.